All right. I think we're live,
All
Doug.
right. Yeah, we are. So it's April 17th, and this is Office Flash Friday, which,
Yes.
I'm not going to rename to Microsoft 365 Flash Friday, even though
I
we've
thought
changed
of that this
everything
morning,
around it.
actually. I'm like, are we due for a rebrand?
Maybe. But we're still going to have the link to be off because we're a little off.
We,
Um,
we are a little off.
lots
Yes.
going,
Well,
lots going on in the world. I got a bunch of team stuff, like a bunch of team stuff, cool stuff.
nice.
Um,
Nice.
you can see on screen, I got one service extension, a little Windows 10, because we're getting ready, believe it or not, for May H1 release.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Is it the May release now officially?
well, they're saying it's the H1 release is scheduled for May right now. It has to go through validation testing. So we'll try
I'm
a little Windows
excited.
10. And that's pretty much it for me. Lots of teams, extensions to teams, learning on teams, and then some Windows 10.
Well, I'm spreading the love like peanut butter across the Power Platform today. So I got a little bit of everything.
All right, well, I'll hit it. All right, first off, good news. And by the way, I'm trying to do nothing but good news. Last 2 days, I've been trying to. Everyone who wants to go negative, I've been like, nope, not doing it. It's just good news days
Who
for
wants
me.
to go negative? You tell them to come talk to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, no, I'm just like, we're just gonna be happy and positive as much as we possibly can right now. I
Mm-hmm.
watched the Disney sing along last night, like with all these people doing this Disney family sing along. That was very enjoyable too. So if you get a
I'm not
chance
even
to watch
aware of
the
this.
replay,
Is that a thing?
yeah, but they just had like people from their houses who are
Oh,
just like on their phones, and then they mushed them together, kind of like we are from our houses, mushed together. It had about the production quality close
of
to
this.
of Office Flash.
They were probably using OBS. Like maybe.
I don't know, but it was pretty fun. Anyway, so if you're in the mood for schlocky fun, have some fun with that. Um, because of life, SharePoint 2010 EOL has been extended to April 13th, 2021. You may have other projects, you may have things going on. So here's my lesson for this: look at the migration tools, get your content plan for migration ready, and get off of SharePoint 2010.
It's time.
It's time. But if you were in the midst of it, I mean, I still have some people older than that running on their wire, right? And I know, but that's just the way it is. I mean, life's life, and sometimes you acquire someone, and there's this asset out there, and you don't really know what's on it, so you don't turn it off. So be thoughtful, get it off. Need help? Reach out. There you go. All right.
Cool.
So next up for me, we're heading into the Teams world. It's kind of cool. These are more fun things for teams. Continue with my thing of like, okay, so I'm actually doing a session next week with Michelle Gilbert for a small business segment, talking like beyond meetings and chats. Like, what else do you do with Teams? And there's all these amazing apps, and that's going to be kind of the theme. My next little sprint here on the show is going to be apps and stuff in Teams. And so there's all these amazing app templates that are out there. We're going to do a little tour of some of those things here over the next few minutes. And so if you look at this one, there is now the ability to do badges, like actual official like achievement badges for like, the Insiders Club or this club or the leadership thing or the, great whatevers. And since we're not near each other anymore, some of the stuff is even more important. The digital kudos, the gamification of involvement. And so I like this. I think this is a fascinating use case for
everyone likes to be
stuff.
recognized. Everyone likes to know that someone's thinking about them. I totally get it.
Yeah, and I think when you're not around to get the first person attaboys, and as a manager, I've had to take a special effort to do one-on-one with my teams, but there's not that the different. It's just different right now. And so if you're looking for ways to be connected and engaged and do these things, and these things are they're cool, and you see them on LinkedIn all the time. The acclaim badges for people passing their certification on a given cloud vendor or something. Well, this is your chance to do those same kind of things internally and use the framework for doing so. So I liked it. And so it's built on top of the Badgers achievement platform. So that was pretty cool, like how it was, not just what it does, but how it was built. And so, and they cooperated with the build out. So go check that one out. Pretty cool.
Nice.
If you haven't been around, the app templates for Teams have a lot of amazingness going on. And one of my favorite ones across the board, we're going to highlight two of them. I mean, there's the company communicator, and now there are third-party ones who've put in syndication, and we've demonstrated flows and published to GitHub flows that you can take up messages and have service accounts run out and post adaptive cards. And so you and I have shown that how-to tutorials and how to do that over the years. And so if you look through on this one, if you come down, one of the things that caught my eye as I was scrolling through the updates is there's a new release of the FAQ Plus. So remember the FAQ, the crowdsourcing component? Well,
Yep.
look what they did. They added new Q&As directly into the knowledge base using the message extension. So you could do the whole new Q&A thing right there in line while you're using the tool. You can edit and delete the QA pairs added by the bot. So you can basically, anything that was programmatically added, you can do that. You can look at the revision history. And you can configure an answer with additional details to display as an adaptive card. So it went away from the simple text back to the lessons we showed everyone on the Adaptive Card Studio. So FAQ Plus got a huge uplift, and it's out there waiting for you to use right now, sitting out there as an app template on top of GitHub with documentation, instructions, and everything else. So if you have people who are working from home or doing all sorts of things and you're getting inundated with the same 92 requests, FAQ Plus is for you. And I was thinking about doing a little API extension on top of this, like if you get to a stump scenario, then use bookings as a crowdsourced internal coaching tool for your champions community to say, well, how about I just take you over to, I could easily generate a link, right? But how about I actually use some of the APIs and go check availability and maybe even generate a booking directly from within the FAQ Plus bot. So I was thinking, yeah, so I was thinking
I know
like,
where you get that idea, by the way.
yeah. Well, we've been doing it internally, right? And,
yeah, exactly.
and we've had 40-something requests. The MTCs internally, the Technology Center internally stood up an instance of bookings to allow people to get a hold of us for more crisis communication stuff.
Yep.
And it continues to get a low dial tone of use, but it's a quicker way than our normal, well, let's sit down and talk, whatever. If it's a pre-canned thing, we're just kind of, like everyone else is, grab some time and help. But I thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool if you connected these two things together for an enterprise, particularly around a user champions and mentors program, right? And you can just cross domain it. It could be about lawnmower maintenance, engineering questions. It doesn't have to be about remote work. That's just the world I'm in right now. So anyway, now the next one.
Good idea. I love it.
Yeah. So I was going to crack the SDK open sometime in my non-existent free time and go through and do that. By the way, speaking of, we had the whole our version of the adaptive card news SharePoint generator that we showed, late last fall and early winter. We're moving that to common data services with a generic data model and generic page generation as a solution template. So you'll basically just be able to deploy the solution, import the flows, and have our news syndication and generation framework for yourself here sometime in May. So yeah, so we're taking some of the work we've shown you over the years and the little tiny things, and we're trying to get more finished and packaged it up. I got some volunteers helping me out on that, so you'll see that on GitHub soon as well. All right, so next up we got. And I loved the thing on the title on this, Assisted Happenstance. First, happenstance is a great word, right? Yeah, exactly. So assisted happenstance to strengthen company culture. Now, if you do not remember Icebreaker, and again, we're sort of re-reviewing a couple of my favorite of these Teams app templates, it does random introduction to pair people together for meetups. Now, right now, given the isolation and the differentiation of people like that, like having new human contact is a really good thing. You're walking around, you're having like conversations. I was involved in a neighborhood meetup, like where everybody's like 10 feet apart, standing around the driveways type stuff. It was just good to see new humanity. Well, the same thing is true for inside of your company. So check it out. If you haven't deployed Icebreaker, I think you should, and it's a really powerful tool to do connected on top of that. So anyway. Now, there were third-party apps that got released. These are all ones you can go deploy, those ones. There's no third-party service dependency. There's no nothing. But there are some pretty cool ones about dynamic signal, which does a beautiful version of the same thing we showed you how to do it in a director set level, but they're all done, is to do dynamic signal, which deploys a Teams app and then does personalized communications and channel segmentation to deliver awareness in a timely manner. So it's one of those syndication tools, and I like this kind of stuff. So I think if you don't have the appetite for erector setting something like that yourself, then look to the third-party app ecosystems. It's pretty cool. Qubie's in there for routine activity. You can go check that one out. I thought this one was particularly clever. There's now one of the native providers that does SMS texting is allowing you to stand up your text line and do native integration into Teams directly, so that the text come into a team channel and you can chat back and forth from directly within it. This might be competitive in some ways to your existing contact center strategy if you're a large super enterprise. But if you have a pocket need, for a fast stand up for like a skunkworks engineering team that wants to put up a code to, put things in, pretty cool. So there's a few other third party ones on top of it. Disco again, the ability to celebrate teamwork, kind of similar to the badging framework on top of it, Ally for HR. So a pretty cool list of third-party Teams applications on top of it. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, these are intimidating for users to use or for me to deploy. Well, how about we solve that problem as well? So there are now these ongoing Microsoft virtual instructor-led trainings. Did you know about these? On like how to use apps in Teams?
I have not seen that. That's amazing.
Yeah. So look at these. These are all like check, 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 right? So
I think I read
pretty
the top part of
much.
that post. Scroll far enough. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty good. It just tells people how to use applications, bots, and connectors, right? How to install one and how to use it in your workspace. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to give that to my users unless I know how to govern and control it. Well, funny you should mention, right? Here's the apps and Teams kind of admin session coming up on April 23rd and April 30th. So the end users, lots. The admins appears to be next couple of weeks. So go ramp yourself up on apps would be the lesson of the day for me, and as we head into it. Next up in Teams is something I have already gone through the hype curve, the trough of disillusionment, and come up to the plateau of productivity on.
We're there? Okay, what do we got?
Well, I did it. I was so excited about tags. Have you been looking at tags in Teams and what they're for and everything else? Okay. I was
Makes
like,
a lot of sense.
this is great, right? And then I learned about like how they're instrumented and where they apply. And I was like, oh. And then I was like, oh, no, wait. So I've gone through it. So read all of it to understand it, because I was under a misconception as to some of the functionality. And so the one thing that's important to note is that, and I'll just go on to the limits because you can read the post yourself, but we're supposed to call out the intrigue around these things, right? I'm supposed to read the details so you don't have to. We're curating the news around here. So if you look at the tagging capabilities, right, tags are only accessible to people who are members of the team where the tag was created. Therefore, tags are not cross-team.
Okay.
So, which makes sense, but if you were doing, you know how you can do a broadcast message and you can send it out across multiple teams? I was sort of envisioning you could do a tag, you know what I mean? Like, and
I'll be honest, I was under the same misconception. So tell me, like, tell us what the use case is.
Well, so it would be then within a large team. Say you had a retail team and there were people who were in charge, like for a store, and there were merchandisers across the different channels, right? Or you're in a budget cycle and you have, like, in a team, and you have different people participating in different budget channels, you know, capital, IT, whatever it is, and you want to tag the finance people across all of it. So there certainly is.
Tags are intra-team, inter-channel.
Yes, sir. Well said.
Okay. All
in their current incarnation, right? So
I'm glad you're pointing this out, because I'll be honest, I was under the same misconception as you were.
Right.
I was assuming when you said like retail, I was assuming multiple. And I don't make a habit of assuming, right? Multiple retail stores each have their own channel, or I'm sorry, team.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad you're bringing that up.
So then it says, hey, we're currently working on new tag capabilities to automatically apply tags to users based on when they are working. That functionality is backed by shifts. And so awesome. You could say, I want to find all the people in this team who are currently on duty. So I need a cleanup in aisle 4. Well, I want all mop pushers, right, who are currently working to get a heads up. So I'm not in any way, quote unquote, disappointed by what it is now that I know what it is and what it's for. But I was under a misconception as to what it was. And it's pretty clear when you go into the how tag works, you know, that you can look in, you can say, hey, you know, tagging is enabled for team owners, right? Who can override? What are the default tags? You can set who can edit tags. So therefore, it makes sense. This isn't like a managed metadata service across multiple farms, right? I mean, this is tags for teams. Now, so I brought my legacy of centralized metadata inappropriately to this dialogue. But if you're a SharePoint person, ex-SharePoint person like me, you might have that kind of construct in your head. And you and I both come from that world, so. You know.
I think maybe that's why we both had the same wrong idea.
Yeah, so, you know, I don't know, read the manual. It's often a good thing to do. So I'm happy with it. I think it will particularly be useful for people who have larger teams.
Yes.
And I'll get even more interested when the shift stuff comes on for like my manufacturing facility ones where you've got all the entire plant is in one team. and there are sub teams that are focused. But if you wanted to hit like on duty, punched in people and that kind of stuff,
Right.
And so then if you have something that you have that has the API integration with shifts, and the shifts and bookings APIs are pretty clean, RESTful endpoints, and you and I have used them in flows before. So there's a lot you can do here. One other thing, and we got asked a couple weeks ago, we showed off bookings. People were like, is it in GCC? And we're like, well, it's coming, but it's not there, which is why I feel like I always say. Tags are not yet supported in private channels. Duh.
Makes sense.
I mean, otherwise you have to re-instrument them. Think about the security model behind that. Like that would be, and I don't know if they are. That'll be interesting to see how it applies and how you filter and trim. And then tags are not yet available in GCC, GCC or DoD. So it does say not yet. I didn't have a chance to get the timeline, but all right. So one more thing, and then I'm turning it over to you. It's almost time for the H2 update to Windows 10, or H1, sorry, the 2020 update for it. And so there's a bunch of stuff going out to the insiders.
WSL2, baby. So excited.
What's that?
WSL2, man.
Yeah?
That's what I'm excited for, sorry.
Well, yeah, that's one of the big things in here. So and de-acronym us, the Windows subsystem for Linux, right? And so, yeah, a lot of people are pretty excited about that. I'm sort of indifferent, but I'm glad other people are happy. So no, seriously. And so I was a little more interested. If you look, hey, there's a whole bunch of things about Windows Search, the Cortana on Windows stuff, the quick searches in Home, and then they got the Kmoji stuff came out for the advanced emojis. So if you're into all that stuff,
what's the emoji thing?
Oh, the Kmojis, the advanced like multi-character emoji stuff. You're not.
Oh, got it. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have that one on top of it, and then there's your WSL, and okay, the new DirectX 12, which if you have not seen the rendering stuff DirectX 12 can do, wowzers,
it's crazy.
And Windows Hello Pin and Safe Mode, which I thought was pretty cool. So if you're like me and you're like, hey, what was my password again? I've used my PIN for so long on your machine. So there's some other one. And then I tagged the post for the specific Cortana announcement that happened in November that said, and I wanted to call this one thing out and then over to you. It says Cortana is evolving from a general digital assistant to a personal productivity assistant that helps you in Microsoft 365 apps. So that's the philosophical shift that you're going to see a lot of inside of the personal digital assistant that is Cortana. We're focusing it into into productivity in Windows and the M65 and all that stuff. You and I had seen those original fits and starts around pulling up Power BI dashboards and stuff, right?
Yep.
That was pretty cool work, and I think we're going to see a return of that kind of stuff if my crystal ball is any good based on public comments. I haven't looked internally at all, so I'm as informed as you guys are, but looks pretty cool. All right, so Mr. Kidda, over to you.
Yes, sir. Well, speaking of, so since you talked a lot about teams and emojis and Kmojis, I found out yesterday that you can actually name channels in Teams and group chats with emojis in it. So for extra splash fun.
You didn't know that?
I didn't. I'm sorry.
Oh no! Like all the ones I are in now look like Las Vegas banners. So if you're going to use that,
does that make me sound like a grandpa? Like, hey, you can do this, right?
No. Anyway, no, I just like if you're going to do it cautiously, you know. So all right,
you have fun, right?
Yeah,
we're having fun. All right, so Power Automate. This is awesome. So being able to use Azure AD with your Azure DB connector. I mean, need I say more, right? So, there's still a lot of people that are using SQL Auth for your databases, moving more towards something like using Azure AD where you can actually use the identity of the human that's accessing your database. Good practice to do. And now the connector supports that. So definitely take a look at that. If I know that this has been in the hopper for a while, people have been asking for this. So go take a look, as well as better support for datetime and the sequel to datetime 2, and the oft hated sequel small datetime. No, I'm kidding. It's like Godfather 3. Anyway, lame attempt at humor. And 15 new connectors. I'm not going to go through these, but man, bunch of stuff out there. Go check that out. I was really excited by the stuff in Power Apps that got announced this week. This is pretty hefty. So some really amazing interactive maps available now in here, and I love the GIFs that the that the team is putting in their blog post to kind of walk you through what this looks like. So you can see here being able to enable satellite view, cluster pins, those kinds of things. And this one is just really great. Address suggestions, right? I get annoyed now when I'm at an e-commerce site or wherever filling out my address and it's not prompting me for my address. It's like, dude, do the lookup for me, and save me some typing. So this is great. Really happy with this here as well. And kind of go through. Here's an example, right? That's very timely of using some of these features for tracking COVID, right? So here's a COVID-19 tracker built with some of these capabilities inside of Power Apps. So that's pretty awesome.
I just got one.
I've been talking a lot more lately. So yeah, go ahead.
No, real quick. It's just that the amount of R&D in this platform since it broke away and became its own thing is staggering. Right? We saw the same thing with Power BI.
Yes,
and that's my only point is that when things get this much energy behind them and UI flows and everything, it's amazing. That's all.
Well, and I think the next couple tabs here, you'll see even more of that and bolster your statement even more. So AI Builder, which I've been talking about a lot recently, some of which has gone GA recently, now supports numerical predictions, otherwise known as regressions, right? So if you want to predict some kind of probability or predict some not discrete but continuous number, right? A salary or an amount of some kind, or a number of minutes, right? Something that's on a continuous scale. This better supports those capabilities, which is when you look at the types of things that you're predicting with machine learning, this is a huge one. This is a huge category, right? You're doing, a lot of times categorical types of things where you're trying to put things into buckets, but being able to predict a number is a big chunk of what people are doing with machine learning. And now we're supporting that in preview inside the AI Builder. So definitely go take a look at that. And I love the example they use. They're showing with the Common Data Service using an entity called Online Shopper Intention, where there's some work that's been done to curate things like exit rate, bounce rate, those kinds of things that can be now predicted and operationalized. So really excited about that one. Now this one's getting, this one speaks back to your maturity and investment.
Oh, this is awesome.
Big time, right? And I would say if you are doing Power Apps in your organization and you don't know what I'm talking about when you're when I'm looking at this post, and you can hear my son wants to chime in here, so thank you for that. What I'm showing you here is using Azure DevOps, not only to deploy your applications, which has been something that we've been talking about for a while, and people that are getting pretty mature with this in organization are doing, but now being able to do UI automation tests as part of your deployment pipeline. So the screenshot that you're looking at right here is usually something a developer is seeing, and you're probably gonna have someone, if you're a citizen developer, you're probably gonna have someone help you set some of these up. But this is actually not only deploying your Power Apps from dev to non-prod to a prod type environment, but running UI tests that you can go and set up as part of that to have it be a gate for quality of your application. So this is pretty exciting. I thought this level of investment is pretty amazing.
Valerie Bergman, who's on my team, was just saying this week that her background is software engineering, and she was like, "This is getting real for me now."
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you're not really the audience with that level of sophistication, but the oversight and assistance capability you pointed out, from the pro devs to the amateurs, to be able to, and the speed at which a pro dev can get something done in here should not be, because then they can focus on the back end services and not the commodity management and UI layer, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
and, this type of investment, and then the stuff we're doing in Power BI with pipelines. Is really, we're racing towards this. I feel like we've been on the bleeding edge of the citizen developer movement for the last couple of years, driving the state of the art. I don't think.
Well, we defined the market with VBA and Access and FoxPro.
Right.
But I mean, we built that entire ecosystem, but as far as cloud-centric, I would agree that we returned to primacy in the last 18 months or so.
Well, and I think that all of those things that we did even decades ago are all were all precursors to like doing it in an enterprise way that you can now do with Power Apps and a Power Platform. It's pretty amazing that we've been
Without
building
tech debt.
without tech debt. Well, yeah,
Or a
exactly.
significant tech debt. I mean, let's be honest. People built some things in some of these, client side tools that were very difficult for us to overcome it operationally, and we're basically not repeating that mistake. So awesome.
I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one, but you and I IM'd about this a couple weeks ago. The Office 365 CLI is not something that I'm adept at the Azure CLI. I use it all the time. And I was just talking about, I'm super excited about the WSL2 for Windows 10 coming out here in the May release. But I'm not, I wonder how many people realize there is a Office 365 CLI. I know you knew about it.
Yeah.
I don't think it gets talked about a lot unless I'm just like under a rock or something.
Well, I think it should get more. I think in certain circles it's gotten a lot, and I think it's going to get a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think I've been seeing a lot more about it recently, and I wanted to show. It reminded me of this tweet from Jeffrey Snover, who you know who Jeffrey Snover is, I assume, Doug.
Yes, sir.
The one of the inventors and originators of PowerShell. He tweeted this out. I absolutely loved this. You can't code review mouse clicks, right? This is his PowerShell mug.
Yeah.
But I think getting comfortable with things like the CLI for Office 365. It's not scary, right? So go out, check it out. This does talk about how you can use it with PowerShell inside the PowerShell. I think there's never been a better time to learn a new skill. And I think there's never been a better time for one of those skills to be command line, right? So if you're generally a UI person, take, we talked about last week how Pluralsight is free this month. Go take a CLI course for Linux or whatever. I think this is pretty great. So repeatability.
One observation on that I get beat up a lot of time from an enterprise patterns and architecture standpoints, but the lack of granularity of security roles within administrative enclaves on our Office 365 side, right? I want a more granular, a super tiny admin role around one thing. I'm like, no matter how tight the UI role I ever give you, you're still going to have someone make a change that's not peer reviewable. And if you relied on click pathing in a QA environment, how do I know you did the exact same clicks or the environmental consistency? And so how do I push this through? So if you have true separation of duties, peer review and outcome review, which you should have, that this supports that. So the PowerShell Graph API, these are peer, like his point, peer reviewable. Could not agree more. Now, the dart back at us is, well, you haven't had these CLI tools for us to be able to do it. The only interface was the UI. But we're fixing that, and so you should get ahead of this so you can do normalized peer review for admin changes.
That's right.
It's a really, really big deal. So
love it. All right, a couple more things here real quick. And actually, I want to do a shout out to Alex Powers. By the way, Doug, so we have one of the most passionate Power Platform people on the planet in St. Louis named Alex Powers, of all names, right? Isn't that amazing? He was born for the job, and he gifted me generously this shirt, so I wanted to thank him for that and do a shout out to Alex. So, all right, Alex is one of the most passionate Power BI people on the planet, and so moving over to Power BI. This was yesterday. I usually don't call it these webcasts, but this one was great. We talk a lot about Power BI, but data modeling is its own skill, right? Forget Power BI, forget technology for a second. Data modeling is its own skill. Like, what's a star schema? What's dimensions? How do I think about presenting the users with data? I'd say this is a good one to check out because this goes through some of those basics. So if you're a Power BI user, but if I say, are you a data modeler, and you're kind of like, maybe this one's a good one to check out because I think you'll start a lot of the terms that you'll learn here and a lot of pointers to kind of refining your skills around data modeling. So definitely check this out from yesterday. Is now on demand. New look for Power BI workspaces. This one's great. I think as people have used Power BI more, the UIs had to scale because of just the volume of things and the types of artifacts that are available inside the service. I love this transitional GIF here that goes between old and new. I'm not going to call out every one of these features, just in interest of time, but definitely go check this out. I believe the post says that I believe most people, if not everybody, should be available to opt into this new look immediately. And at some point, it will be the default. So if you're watching this, you probably want to be on the bleeding edge. So go check out what the new workspace view looks like. I'm pretty happy with it. It looks like a lot of thought went into this. And last but not least, more investment in paginate. So a couple things here. General availability of external email address support for subscriptions in a premium capacity. So if you have premium capacity, you can now subscribe people to your paginate reports that are outside your organization, to consumer email addresses, other organizations, whatever the case may be. And I saw a great suggestion yesterday that Doug, that every channel in Teams has an email address.
Yes.
Right? So you know where I'm going with this.
I do.
Yeah. So if you sign up your channel for a subscription for a report and say in an Excel format, not only are you going to get that in your channel on a recurring basis, you're going to actually have that file in your Teams file storage backing that. So you'll have a historical log of all the reports that have come through, which I think is pretty slick. Yeah, just a nice little productivity tip there. Paginate report is now available in the export API, which we've talked about. So being able to call the API to take any of these reports in any of these formats is pretty exciting. People have just been eating that up from the Power BI side, and now it's available to paginate reports as well. I know that having been an SSRS person in a past life, I know that this has been something people have been waiting for a while, is subreports. So being able to nest reports inside of reports is actually a pretty good way to do modularization, if I said that correctly. And that is now coming soon for support inside of Power BI paginated reports, which is great. Another one coming soon is a page view, which is more like what you get in Word when you're saying, what is this actually going to look like printed? This is great. And then finally, more learning resources. We've updated the paginated reports in a day content with labs. So definitely check that out if you have not gone through that content yet, or you are not available or not aware that is available. Paginated reports in a day, or Priad, I guess, is been out if you're so inclined. So Doug, I was talking faster at the end to kind of get all that in, but that's all I think.
It's all good
for the week. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed.
That was a lot. We ran a few minutes long.
We had a lot of content, so
yeah.
All right. Well.
All right. Well, let's call a halt then. We will see everybody next week.
Yep. All right. Everybody, stay safe, stay healthy, and take care. And I suppose now the time where I need to go and end the stream. All right. See ya.
See y'all.